Hello, besties! Today's video is the result of the poll we posted in our community tab, where AHOF's Steven's HomeTown tour received 54% of the votes out of 1,700 plus viewers who participated over the last 24 hours. We always listen to what our viewers want, because you have the power to choose our next upload, and we value your voice above all else. To my fellow FOHAs, this one's for you. Sit back, relax, and subscribe to your one and only Billypedia.
와우! 엄마라니까?
엄마.
Welcome to Sydney, Australia, AHOF's Steven's hometown. Today, you will experience a one-of-a-kind hometown tour, seeing the city from his eyes as he grew from a young child into a teenager. Imagine stepping into the quiet streets, vibrant parks, bustling markets, and iconic landmarks that shaped his childhood, a city where he learned, played, and dreamed. Steven was born in South Korea, but as a young child he moved with his family to Sydney, where they settled in the multicultural suburb of Greenacre in the southwest of the city. The move was a new beginning, a chance to experience a world vastly different from the one he had known, full of new sights, sounds, languages, and opportunities. For Steven, Sydney was a place to grow, explore, and imagine the possibilities of life far beyond his birthplace. As you walk the streets of Greenacre, you can almost feel the energy of the neighborhood through Steven's perspective. The streets are lined with houses, local shops, and small cafes, each carrying the hum of everyday life. Children's laughter echoes from the parks, neighbors greet each other warmly, and the multicultural fabric of the area is evident in the variety of cuisines, languages, and festivals that fill the air. Young Steven, navigating this new environment, began to form connections, make friends, and find comfort in the routines of suburban life. Weekend walks with his family to the local market, stops at corner bakeries, and afternoons playing in the park became moments of discovery and joy, anchoring him in his new home while fostering curiosity about the broader city around him. Parks were central to Steven's Sydney experience. Imagine him running across the wide green fields, climbing playground structures, or sitting quietly under a tree, observing the world with keen eyes. Family outings often took them to nearby parks, where they enjoyed picnics, casual games, or simply the calm of open space. These green areas were more than recreational spots. They were laboratories of imagination and creativity, places where Steven could explore, dream, and reflect on life in a new country. The scent of fresh grass, the chatter of other children, and the gentle rustling of trees became a sensory backdrop to his formative years, blending with the streets, shops, and homes of Greenacre to create a complete picture of his Sydney upbringing. Beyond Greenacre, trips to surrounding suburbs like Bankstown or Strathfield added layers of experience to Steven's life. These visits might have been for family errands, shopping trips, or social visits, but they offered glimpses of life outside his immediate neighborhood. Bankstown's busy streets, vibrant markets, and lively community centers provided contrast to the quiet streets of Greenacre, while Strathfield's mix of residential calm and bustling shops introduced him to yet another rhythm of Sydney life. Each excursion expanded Steven's sense of the city and its diversity, teaching him about the different ways people lived, worked, and connected. Even the smallest details, the colors of shop fronts, the aromas from bakeries, the laughter of children, were absorbed and remembered, quietly shaping his understanding of his new home. Steven's family also introduced him to some of Sydney's most iconic landmarks, even if only on occasional trips. Imagine a young Steven standing at Circular Quay, watching ferries glide across the sparkling harbour, or gazing up at the sails of the Sydney Opera House from Bennelong Point. Perhaps the harbour bridge loomed overhead during a family outing, inspiring awe and imagination. These glimpses of the larger city contrasted with the suburban familiarity of Greenacre, giving Stephen a sense of wonder and possibility. Even a short ferry ride across the harbor or a walk along the harbor promenade would have provided excitement and new perspectives, blending family bonding with exposure to Sydney's grandeur and energy. The beaches of Sydney, just a short drive from his suburb, were also part of Stephen's childhood experience. Picture him running along the golden sands of Bondi or Coogee, feeling the cool ocean breeze, chasing waves, or simply walking with his family along the shoreline as the sun set in brilliant colors. These visits offered freedom and space, a chance to play, dream, and reflect. While Greenacre provided routine and community, the beaches offered inspiration, a connection to nature, and a sense of the vast possibilities in life beyond the neighborhood. Coastal walks, waves crashing on rocks, and sunlit sands became part of the sensory memory of Stephen's formative years in Sydney, blending seamlessly with his suburban experiences to create a well-rounded, vibrant childhood. Even school life contributed to Stephen's formative experiences. Walking to school through familiar streets, meeting classmates from diverse backgrounds, and participating in community activities provided structure and social connection. Weekend trips to libraries, cultural centers, or small music-related events may have exposed him to creative ideas and inspired his growing interests. Family routines, whether sharing meals, walking through neighborhood streets, or attending local events, reinforced a sense of stability, identity, and belonging. Each day, each family outing, each casual stroll contributed to the tapestry of memories, combining ordinary moments with the extraordinary diversity and vibrancy of Sydney. Neighborhoods near Greenacre, including Bankstown, Strathfield, and Lakemba, offered additional textures to Stephen's life. Weekend errands, casual explorations, and family visits exposed him to the city's cultural richness, showing him the different ways communities interacted, celebrated, and lived. Vibrant markets, small cafes, local shops, and green spaces became more than locations. They became characters in the story of his early life. Even brief encounters, like stopping to watch children play at a park, sampling foods at a market, or observing a local festival, contributed to his understanding of community, culture, and city life. In these years, Stephen's experiences were a mix of suburban life, family bonding, natural landscapes, and glimpses of the wider city. Greenacre's streets and parks provided routine, comfort, and friendship. Family outings to neighboring suburbs expanded his awareness and curiosity. Visits to beaches, the harbor, and iconic landmarks sparked imagination and dreams. Sydney itself became an active participant in his life, shaping his experiences, nurturing his creativity, and offering a sense of possibility. By the time he reached his teenage years, Stephen had formed a deep connection with the city, carrying memories of its streets, parks, beaches, and neighborhoods, even as his family prepared to return to South Korea. These years in Sydney were foundational, a blend of childhood wonder, cultural discovery, and the early shaping of a life that would one day take him back to the global stage. As Stephen grew older in Sydney, his world expanded beyond the immediate streets of Greenacre. Neighborhoods that were once unfamiliar became places of adventure and discovery. Weekend outings with his family often took them to nearby suburbs like Bankstown, Strathfield, and Lakemba, where lively streets, colorful shops, and bustling markets painted a vivid picture of the city's diversity. Imagine Stephen walking through the crowded aisles of a local market, fascinated by the variety of foods and crafts, or sampling a snack his parents had picked out, the flavors blending with the sounds of laughter and conversation around him. Each visit to these neighborhoods brought new experiences. The sights of street art on walls, the aroma of freshly baked bread, the chatter of people speaking multiple languages, all forming part of the rich tapestry of Sydney that Stephen absorbed as a child. Parks remained an essential part of his life. In the afternoons after school, Stephen could often be found running through the grassy fields, playing games with friends, or climbing on playground equipment while his family watched from nearby benches. The open spaces of Greenacre's parks were perfect for imagination, allowing him to invent games, explore nature, or simply sit quietly and observe the world around him. Family picnics in these parks became cherished moments, with shared laughter, storytelling, and the simple pleasure of being together under the sunlight filtering through the trees. These green spaces offered freedom and perspective, a place where young Stephen could dream and reflect, away from the familiar structures of school and home. As he grew, Stephen's family also made trips to some of Sydney's more iconic locations, blending everyday suburban life with exposure to the city's grandeur. Perhaps they strolled along Circular Quay, watching ferries glide across the sparkling harbor, or paused to admire the sails of the Sydney Opera House from Bennelong Point. The harbour bridge loomed majestically in the background as they walked along the promenade, providing a sense of scale and wonder. Even short excursions, ferry rides across the harbour, walks along Darling Harbour, or glimpses of the skyline from a vantage point, offered young Stephen a sense of possibility, the realization that the world extended far beyond the familiar streets of Greenacre. These moments were not just sightseeing trips, they were experiences that inspired imagination and curiosity, teaching him about scale, beauty, and the energy of a city alive with culture and activity. Sydney's beaches also became a playground for Stephen's growing sense of adventure. Family trips to Bondi, Coogee, or even smaller local beaches allowed him to feel the vastness of the ocean and the rhythm of the waves. Imagine Stephen running along the sand, feeling the cool water lap at his feet, or walking with his parents as the sun dipped low, casting golden hues over the shoreline. These visits offered more than recreation. They provided a connection to nature and an understanding of space, freedom, and the beauty of his surroundings. Even casual coastal walks or moments of quiet reflection by the water's edge helped shape his imagination and creativity, blending seamlessly with his experiences in the suburbs, parks, and city streets. Stephen's school years in Sydney introduced him to new friends, different cultures, and broader ideas. Walking to school through the familiar streets of Greenacre, he observed life around him. Children playing in the parks, neighbors greeting each other, and small shops humming with activity. School provided structure and community, while after-school interactions, weekend activities, and family outings allowed him to explore more freely. Visits to local libraries or community centers offered spaces for curiosity and learning, where he could discover music, stories, and ideas that fascinated him. These formative experiences helped him build confidence, social awareness, and a growing understanding of the world around him, all while remaining deeply connected to the rhythms of his neighborhood. Neighborhood streets continued to serve as both playgrounds and classrooms for Stephen. Walking to local shops, playing with friends on quiet lanes, or accompanying family on errands provided a sense of familiarity and comfort. The streets of Greenacre, with their mix of houses, small gardens, and trees lining the sidewalks, became part of his memory. Places where laughter echoed, small adventures unfolded, and lessons about community, respect, and curiosity were learned. Even brief interactions, waving to a neighbor, sharing a game with friends, or helping his parents carry groceries, contributed to his understanding of daily life in a city that blended the ordinary with the extraordinary. Family routines shaped much of Stephen's experiences. Weekend trips to nearby markets or shopping centers were opportunities for bonding, discovery, and engagement with the community. Imagine him exploring the aisles of a market, intrigued by fresh produce, handmade crafts, or the smell of international cuisine. Perhaps he shared a laugh with his parents over a snack, or observed the busy rhythm of vendors and shoppers alike. These excursions were more than errands. They were lessons in observation, appreciation, and cultural awareness, helping Stephen develop a connection to both his family and the city around him. Parks, streets, and neighborhood routines worked in harmony with exposure to Sydney's landmarks and natural beauty. Occasional visits to Circular Quay, the Opera House, or Darling Harbour provided glimpses of urban energy and the city's scale, while beaches offered expansive space, fresh air, and sensory wonder. Greenacre's streets, local shops, and playgrounds grounded him in routine and community, creating a foundation of security and belonging. Together, these experiences nurtured curiosity, independence, and imagination, qualities that would become central to Stephen's personality and future endeavors. Even as he approached his teenage years, the balance between suburban life, family outings, and exposure to the broader city shaped his sense of self. Each weekend walk through Greenacre's streets, each trip to nearby neighborhoods, each visit to a park, market, beach, or landmark contributed to a rich tapestry of experiences. Sydney was not simply a backdrop, it was a living participant in his childhood, offering lessons, inspiration, and memories that would stay with him long after his family returned to South Korea. By the time Stephen left Sydney as a teenager, he had not only experienced the warmth of community, the diversity of neighborhoods, and the beauty of the city's landscapes, but had also formed memories, dreams, and a sense of identity that would continue to guide him through life. As Stephen entered his teenage years, his connection to Sydney deepened. The city that had been a backdrop to his childhood now became a space for exploration, curiosity, and personal growth. Greenacre, with its familiar streets, parks, and local shops, remained the center of his daily life, but trips to surrounding suburbs and Sydney's cultural landmarks offered new perspectives and experiences. Perhaps he spent afternoons with friends exploring nearby streets, discovering small cafes, hidden parks, or colorful murals that brought the neighborhoods to life. Even casual walks through familiar lanes became opportunities to notice details he had never seen before. A flowering tree in someone's garden, a new shop opening, or children playing in the playgrounds he had once frequented. Family outings continued to shape his teenage experiences. Weekend trips might have taken Stephen to Bankstown Central, where bustling streets, lively markets, and small community events painted a vibrant picture of Sydney life. He may have sampled foods from different cultures, watched street performances, or observed the rhythms of daily life in the city. Each visit added depth to his understanding of Sydney's multicultural environment, exposing him to diversity, creativity, and the small wonders of everyday life. Even simple errands, such as walking with his parents to local shops, became moments of connection, observation, and memory-making. Parks and green spaces continued to play a pivotal role during these years. Stephen might have joined friends for soccer games, shared quiet moments under the shade of trees, or simply walked through familiar fields while reflecting on his experiences. The parks were not only playgrounds but also places of contemplation and imagination. The combination of open green spaces, suburban streets, and family interactions offered a sense of freedom, grounding, and inspiration, a balance that allowed Stephen to grow socially, emotionally, and creatively. Family picnics in these parks, shared laughter during casual games, and the sensory experiences of nature became interwoven with the everyday rhythms of life in Greenacre. Sydney's coastal beauty remained a source of joy and inspiration. Family trips to Bondi, Coogee, or other nearby beaches allowed Stephen to experience the freedom of the open sea and the expansiveness of the horizon. Perhaps he experimented with swimming, chased the waves, or simply walked along the shoreline with his family while the sun set in brilliant colors. These experiences offered moments of reflection and imagination, contrasting with the structured suburban life and nurturing a sense of possibility that extended far beyond Greenacre. The ocean, the wind, and the endless horizon became metaphors for exploration, growth, and dreams waiting to be pursued. During these teenage years, Stephen also became more aware of Sydney's urban landmarks and cultural richness. Visits to Circular Quay, the Opera House, or Darling Harbour allowed him to witness the city's energy firsthand. The ferries gliding across the harbour, the majestic sails of the Opera House, and the bustling promenades offered moments of awe and curiosity. Perhaps his family attended local festivals, cultural events, or performances that introduced him to music, art, and performance. These experiences were formative, planting seeds of creativity, observation, and appreciation that would later influence his artistic journey. Even brief encounters, watching a street performer at Circular Quay, or noticing the intricate architecture of historic buildings, contributed to his growing awareness of culture and the diversity of city life. Exploring Sydney's suburbs with friends became an important part of Stephen's preteen and teenage years. Neighborhoods like Strathfield, Bankstown, and Lakemba offered new sights and experiences. He may have discovered hidden parks, local cafes, or small shops while walking with friends, learning about the rhythms of life beyond Greenacre. Weekend visits, casual explorations, and community events helped him understand the social fabric of Sydney, the interaction between people, and the richness of multicultural life. Every corner, market, and street told a story, and Stephen's awareness of these details became sharper, reflecting a deepening connection with the city that had been his home for so many formative years. School and community life continued to shape him as well. Walking along familiar streets to reach classrooms, interacting with classmates from diverse backgrounds, and participating in school and local activities provided structure and social engagement. Weekend visits to libraries, cultural centers, or local music events offered opportunities for discovery and inspiration. Stephen's experiences in education and the community taught him values of discipline, creativity, and social connection, while also nurturing his curiosity about the world and the possibilities beyond his immediate surroundings. Even everyday routines, trips to the market with family, helping with small errands, or playing in the neighborhood streets, carried significance. They reinforced a sense of community, taught responsibility, and offered moments of observation and reflection. The streets of Greenacre, with their familiar faces and surroundings, remained a comforting anchor, while visits to the harbor, beaches, and surrounding suburbs offered variety, adventure, and inspiration. These experiences combined to create a layered and vibrant understanding of Sydney, a city that was simultaneously home, teacher, and playground for Stephen during these critical years. As Stephen's teenage years progressed, family outings, weekend adventures, and city explorations helped him internalize a sense of place, identity, and belonging. Sydney had become more than a city. It had become a partner in his development. Greenacre's quiet streets, parks, and community spaces nurtured daily life and social growth, while trips to beaches, markets, and urban landmarks expanded his imagination and horizons. The city's diversity, energy, and beauty left lasting impressions, creating memories that he would carry with him long after returning to South Korea. By the time Stephen's family prepared to move back to South Korea, his connection to Sydney was deeply ingrained. The years he spent in Greenacre and the surrounding neighborhoods, the time at parks, beaches, and markets, and the experiences of suburban and urban life together created a childhood full of color, curiosity, and growth. He had navigated a city rich with diversity, culture, and natural beauty, and these years shaped not only his memories but also his creativity, social awareness, and dreams for the future. Sydney was no longer just a city he lived in. It was a formative landscape, a source of inspiration, and the foundation of his early life.